Okay, well, welcome to the first meeting of Lower Makefield Farmland Preservation, Inc. I'm Michael Blank, President, and joining me today are Dan Bankoske, who's the Treasurer, and George Heinze, who's our Secretary. And we have the pleasure of having Matt Ross also join us. He's our new Board Liaison, Board of Supervisors Liaison. So welcome, everyone. Without further ado, let's jump right into the agenda. The first item is approval of our November meeting minutes. I'll turn it over to George.
Okay. Our meeting minutes from our November 19th meeting, we've circulated amongst the board. Any revisions and updates were made. Janelle circulated it to the board. So at this time, I'd like to ask, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our November 19th meeting?
I'll motion to. Okay, beat me to it, Dan. I'll second Dan's motion.
Okay, and since we have a first and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the meeting minutes from November 19th are approved.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, George. So we'll turn now to our election of officers. So we do have a quorum. We have three. We have 5 on our board. We have 3 here tonight. So we'll go ahead with our election of officers. We'll start with president. Do I have a nomination for president?
Mike, before we do that, can I just ask a simple procedural question?
Sure.
Since I know ahead of time, since we've all had our little, I don't know, I can't remember, it was an email or a text message, but everybody agreed that they could fulfill the same offices we had. Are we allowed to just make one motion to basically nominate each of these people for their existing office and just vote once and get it done?
I don't know if we're allowed. Our parliamentarian might have a opinion on that. Dan?
Not me.
Yeah, that's you.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that's fine. So
okay. If that's the case, I make a motion that we elect Michael Blank as president, Dennis Steadman as vice president, Dan Bankoske as treasurer, and myself as secretary.
The only modification to that motion I'll make is that neither Dan nor myself nor you should vote for yourself for those positions. If the remaining 2 are okay, then we can all vote on that.
I'm fine with that.
Sounds good.
All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, done. All right, I'll turn it over to Dan for our next agenda item about our treasurer's report.
All right. So not much for you. So I don't think we had anything that wasn't pre-authorized that we spent since our last meeting, but I'll just run through a handful of things here. Or I should say the bigger ticket item. We had 2 invoices for DUMAC Engineering, one for $2,520 and one for $4,200 that were previously approved by the board. Those went out in the middle of December. But everything else was smaller and pre-approved. We had some reimbursements, some legal expenses. We received our rent. In January here, we received our rent check from Bob Calavita, and we received our rent from Shady Brook Farm Markets. So that's expenses and income. Let me just continue with the lease side then. I'm just Mike, double checking your agenda. Okay, Mike, can we just talk about the leases right now?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure. I go.
Right.
So go ahead.
All right. If I could just do part of it, and then Mike, you can add in anything else.
Right.
So for our property that we call, I actually don't remember if it's our old name or new name or the same name, but Bridle Estates.
It's the same.
Okay. So that was leased to Shady Brook Farm Markets. We received the signed lease and we received their rent check. I had circulated a copy of the fully executed version of that lease. And then, George, I think it's over to you then for the relationship go forward, I think, at this point. Does that sound right?
Yep.
And that's with, for Matt's benefit, that's with the Flemings, Paul and
Dave.
Paul Fleming.
Yep.
And then the one Calavita, like I said, we received our money. There was a modification to that lease last year with that 10 extra acres for Calavita. For Charland Farms, I think, and Mike, you and I had chatted about this when we ran into each other last week, but I think what we might need to do is send just Tim Stewart a note summarizing what he owes, because I think there was a bunch of kind of modifications here and there. One of those being the Heather Ridge lease. And I'll bring this up because George, I'm not sure if you're aware too, but and I don't know who all was in the room at the time of this. I was not, but for Heather Ridge, there's the piece that is closest to the road. Then there's that, old bad bridge, and then call it the northern side of the land. And the idea that we don't have the best access there to the northern side right now. Maybe if it's dry and truly accessible, they can go up and around the wooded, that kind of dry creek bed. But it was decided that we should not be charging them, at least for this first year, and then reassess next year that the northern parcel, the northern part of that parcel.
That's correct.
So I think, and I don't know.
Let me just add, Dan, that
Yeah.
unless there's a particularly dry season,
Yes,
that they're able to get there, that we would then modify the lease if everyone's in agreement, and they would pay us accordingly for that.
so I don't know where Dennis was in terms of documenting that. But I just think that we might need to send Tim a note summarizing the leases and what he owes them. That's what I just wanted to say.
I see. I see your point.
It might just help him out. That's all.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think to clarify more about about the add-on, if the weather's okay. I think Dennis already sent him a note about just limiting what he will pay for the first year to the 9 or so acres near the old Heinze residence. But I think the add-on is important too. I think that's what you're getting at.
Yes, I'll leave that to Dennis to come up with the best way to document all of that.
Okay.
But Charland owes us money now in January. And I think it might just be helpful if we send him a summary of here's what you owe now. And then if this other piece changes, then you can, send us an additional amount later.
Right. Okay, good idea.
Who's going to send that note?
So that's my action to get with Dennis, who's managing Heather Ridge, to send that clarification note.
Okay.
Okay. And
so I think
ahead.
that covers the new leases and the first part of the treasurer's report. Anything else there before we move on to legal review?
I'll come back. Well, since it's under leases, since I was going to make the comments because I've got something from Dennis here, just to point out that the long-term solution to access to those northern fields is an old kind of what I call sunken road that comes off the area near the old Heinze residence that's overgrown for years and years now. To get a bulldozer in there to clear that out, and then to get a solution to cross the dry creek bed with a bridge. that Dennis is looking into now, both of those. So that has to be done. Hopefully we can get it started this spring. And Sam is looking at his friend with a bulldozer to give him an estimate of whether he can do it and how much it would cost. So that's one part of it. And then that second part of it is about what we just discussed, the northern parcel, charging the stewards for that if it's accessible. So that's a good point that Dennis put that in a note to explain that. And that's it. So legal review of our documents. To you, Dan.
All right, so Mike, I think what we should put on the agenda for our next meeting is to vote on the following. And George, I can send you an email then with this list.
Okay.
Copy me, please.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do is I'll send everybody these, call it execution versions or final versions of the following documents.
Okay.
The conflict of interest policy, document retention policy, investment policy statement, and public inspection disclosure. So 4 different documents or policies that I think we should vote on and, you know, approve at our next meeting.
Okay.
So I will circulate, you know, call it the execution version, final version of all of those. But at a previous executive session, we've gone through those. So those are the 4 documents that we discussed that we think are at a place that we can vote on. And any modifications to our bylaws will be held for a future discussion.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. For future, writing that down. For the future. Okay. So that's it on the documents.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Dan. Okay, so the next item is upgrade on the Wright Farm development plan. So there were new plans. There are new plans that are in the township's files now. Jim Majewski sent those out to the various heads of the committees asking for comment. I went through them. In addition, I got a note from the Environmental Action Committee. He went through it, Alan, and neither of us could find direct comments on our review of the documents that we sent to Jim. So both of us requested that the developer put those comments in writing to us, point by point. But I did meet with Jim this afternoon, and it looks like a number of our issues have been taken care of in the new development plans. For example, the open space for farming is there. It's pretty much unchanged from the second round, the changes they made. It's 125 minimum space. The idea of the buffer zone hasn't been worked out yet. But again, we should, I think, put in a request that if it's farmable, if a farmer can go out and look at these and feel that it's farmable, that we can put in a request that the township transfer that open space to us for farming. The second part of that to be transferred to us, we would request that the roughly 0.3 acres near Ascot, where Surrey Lane, not Ascot, Surrey Lane comes in.
Yeah.
To that be transferred to us as well. And let's see first how the developers come back and their point-by-point responses to us. But the Planning Commission is meeting February 10th. And I think we should make it clear that we are requesting that if the land is farmable, that open space be transferred to us, and that we also want to throw in that 0.3 acres by Surrey Lane. Any comments on that? Okay. The Patterson Lane now shows gates at both ends, at both the 332 end and also at the point where the new Patterson Lane is on the development plans. It's a little bit of an awkward turn. It kind of turns into the new Patterson Lane to the left. That needs to be straightened out, but we can comment on that as well.
Now, when you say, Mike, the new Patterson Lane, I knew there was the new Surrey Lane, or the Surrey Lane extends around and was going to come through the development and kind of end at where Patterson Lane is. Is that what you're talking about?
The best way to explain it, it's the road that's parallel, and I forget whether it's a second road or there's just one. It's parallel to 332 now within the development.
Oh, okay.
So that comes around, and if you follow it, if you're looking at the old Wright Farm, if you follow that to the right all the way to Patterson Lane, where it connects to Patterson Lane, the new development plan has some awkward turns, like it turns in and then it turns back out again to continue on to the back. And there's a gate there to prevent people from using it as a shortcut. But we'll have to work that out a little bit more as to get more clarity on it.
Okay.
So the 25-foot buffer, the curb cuts are there towards the Surrey Lane. The curb cuts are there. The other thing is the buffer at the back. They have put in the new plans this wood fence, the split rail fence that is there. The 25-foot buffer is not showing in the plans, but George, as you remember, from the fence, the new fence to where we crop, there's that old road.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that probably would act as the dirt road would act as the buffer.
Correct. On our side of the fence, yes.
On our side of the fence, exactly. It does not show any planting on our side or any, so that wouldn't prevent us from doing the farming there still. And I guess that's it in a nutshell, but I sure would like and express to Jim that I would like point-by-point responses to our request and before the Planning Commission meets in February. So that request has gone in, and he assured me that they've received it, the developers. Any other thoughts on the Wright Farm? Hearing none, I will proceed. LEEDOM driveway access project. So Dan, you'll remember that the check didn't sync, the check that PennDOT wanted didn't sync up with the plans that were submitted. They are synced up now, and the new date to hear back from PennDOT has set it as February 13th, so mid-February, we should hear something.
Yeah, and I was just looking at stuff. That check was a $25 check.
Right.
And I should have just never even put a stop payment on it, because we ended up paying like $17 for a stop payment on a $25 check.
Oh no.
So I might talk to them at some point to see if they can reimburse us, maybe, but
right.
To see if the bank will give us that back. But it was just
fees, right?
Yeah.
So so we should hear back mid-February on that. And then, of course, we take it to the township. Oh, sorry, we would take it first to the Bucks Conservation District. They have to approve it. That may take a little while, and then to the township. So that's the status on that. The Heather Ridge survey, that's done. The posts are in. We've heard no comments on that from our neighbors or from Tom or any of the houses there. So that is done. And the next item is new leases. We've already covered that. And the next item is letters to the neighbors. Heather Ridge, the letters have gone out. Katie McVan was really a great help in getting those out, and those are done. The only thing that her boss requested, Dave Kratzer, was that we remove the Lower Makefield Township seal on our letterhead. And that has to do with our status as a nonprofit, and we can, of course, discuss that. I said, fine, and we did that, and we can do that in the future as well. And George, how about Bridle Estates? Where are we with that?
It's made its way to the top of my priority list, so I can start writing it.
Okay.
So, I read yours, and it was great because of the people involved, and we've dealt with Charlotte Farms for so long. But I just saw so much stuff in there. I was not expecting to have that long of a letter or content regarding, a new tenant on the property. So I got to kind of think through what I'm going to write. But I have your copy of the letter as a good template. I will use that as a starting point and then work something out.
So that's your action, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and people know Shady Brook, so they'll be very familiar with them. They may not know the names of the people, but that might be nice to inform them about that. So that's Bridle Estates letter. Okay. Other business. One thing I wanted to bring up was parcel assignments, just so we get them clear in our own heads about who has what again. I mean, we could just go over what you think you have, and I'll tell you what I think I have. I'll start with, so Dan, you're not doing parcel management. George? Anything other than?
I've got Bridle Estates, and I've got, the one over by me, not Stackhouse.
LEADOMs.
No.
No, we renamed it. It was Stackhouse.
Yeah.
But
anyway, I know which two I have, so.
Yeah, I think isn't it still Stackhouse? And then we renamed one of mine to Stackhouse too.
I think it's something like that.
Yeah, I think it's still Stackhouse. So that reminds me. So I have the Bond Farm, which was the old Farm View 1. And I have Stackhouse 2, which was Farm View 2. And I have Longshore, which became Belden Farm. So I have that. Dennis has Clearview, Makefield Brook, which is the nursery now, and Heather Ridge, which was a bit of a mix-up in my mind because he and I were both meeting with the stewards, and I thought I had it, he thought he had it, but anyway, he has it. So he has Heather Ridge. I think we've covered all of them. I think that's it. Anything else? Just to note that Sean said didn't need to do the winter projects to update winter projects because Matt hasn't started yet. So that was there. And I don't have anything else. Anybody?
I just want to confirm our next meeting would then be March the 18th, which is the third Tuesday.
It would be the third Tuesday. If that's the third Tuesday, and then yes.
Yes, it is. It's March the 18th.
I wonder, Dan, would you like to have an executive committee to talk bylaws? Or not yet?
Maybe you, Dennis, and I chat for a minute just about, because I think you guys were on a phone call that I was not on.
Okay.
And then we can go from there so that we can be, just spend a few minutes with us chatting so we can be organized about getting everyone together.
I think that'd be good. MS Teams, we can do that sort of in February sometime. Yeah. There was something else I was thinking about from exec session. Hang on a second, because I sent that in a text. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So one thing I didn't think we needed to do at a public meeting was our internal rules of the road operating norms. So we can do that. We can do that in another one. I don't expect them to change much, but of course I would like to go over them, once a year. Anything else?
I have nothing.
Okay, if nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, gentlemen, good luck with your microwave, George.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I'll turn the recording off now.